Hey you, it's true! With a review of the new SSR Zoro. And we are now in an era of Evertale enlightenment, as half of the new releases since February are of the light element. But can Zoro put on a good show and clinch the title of strongest light unit away from Kojiro? In terms of speed, she already has her beat with 563.
ムーチョクスはじめまして解決ゾロ参上いたしましたわ。あら、あなたも退屈しているようですわね。ご一緒にお仕事でもしてみませんか？きっと楽しい冒険が待っていますわよ。
Let's check out her adventurous active skills first. The first one being called Tandem Takedown. 60 time unit cost, very odd. 3 spirit plus and deals 250% damage to one enemy. However, here is where the tandem comes in. If there is another ally on the battlefield with 50 time units or less, this deals 500% damage instead. And either way, she immediately gives an ally with the lowest time units, excluding herself, the next turn. A nice touch is that damage from this attack does not wake up sleeping enemies. Also note that, as we saw by the self-give turns, the given turn to the ally is granted after counter stance or counter skin type effects are triggered by this attack, and so the affected ally will act before a countering enemy. Zoro's second skill is a very strong setup skill called Enguard. Oh my goodness, am I saying that right? I don't know. Plus 1 spirit, 50 time unit cost, and weakens all enemies, enrages herself and gives herself the sleep ward, stun ward, poison ward and counter stance for 150 time units, and 80% damage reduction from attacks until the end of her next turn. Yup, that is a lot, and all it takes is to damage an enemy with an attack, then it gets unlocked again. So these first two skills remind me a little bit of Yamato's suppressing fire skill we just looked at 2 weeks ago. Of course, Zoro is a DPS though, and she shows that in her third skill called Double Phoenix. It is an instant skill, so just 1 time unit cost, gives 3 spirits, so all skills so far producing spirit from this unit. And this one deals 700% damage to 2 enemies, ignoring stealth, but not ignoring anything else. So no armor ignore. Why is it called Phoenix? Because this skill resets her hold ground plus passive, and she can also only use it if that hold ground plus passive has been triggered. Double Phoenix can only be used 3 times per battle. That seems slightly on the lower end. If we think back, already nearly 1 year ago we had Storm King Arthur with 10 King's Shields, always resetting the hold ground plus passive skill. Then again, we are in a different era now, and Zoro arguably becomes much more dangerous than Storm King Arthur if she survives long enough, as we can see in her last active skill called Survivor's Blade. 60 time unit and 3 spirit cost. This attack ignores guardians, it ignores enemy damage reduction effects, and ignores any effects of non-boss enemies that would prevent the target from being defeated. So it is an armor ignoring execute skill that deals 600% damage and doesn't even care about guardians. Pretty much Earth, Dark Gavines, Cursed End. However, Cursed End needs 2 kills to unlock, while this Survivor's Blade, as the name already hints at, only needs 200 time units of survival for her to unlock this. A few months ago I would have told you that 200 time units is just a little bit too long in the current meta, but together with her passives and with the new guard releases that we just saw in New Anya and Yamato, surviving for 200 time units has become much more feasible again in my eyes. And given that this attack ignores guardians, it is also a good way to circumvent these new guards if you can't manage to kill them outright right away. Now, what are Zoro's passives? They are actually pretty short and sweet, I have to say. A lot packed in there, but not that many words. The first one is called One Step Ahead. and this one specifies that she is healed for 100% of total damage dealt, basically a full lifesteal. I think the first unit who had that was Diabolos 5 years ago. And then we get to probably her most interesting part. Whenever another unit on the battlefield damages any units with an attack, this unit's current time unit is reduced by 10 time units per unit hit. This does not specify allies or enemies, so it counts for both of them. So if any attack all skills are triggered, which are not that uncommon these days, her time units immediately get reduced by 40. If you think back, most of her skills are 60 time unit cost at most, and there are no time locks on them, except for the survivor skill of course, but I mean there is no kind of unlock period that is at play here. And additionally, she can get the counter stance with the Engard active skill, but she also has a passive function where each time an enemy unit gets the turn and Zoro has 150 time units or more, she will gain the counter stance status effect for 150 time units at the end of that turn. This is of course a nice way for her to get back into the game if she has been stunned heavily, for example by New Anya's Crashing Heavens skill. And then we take a look at her second passive called Steel Resolve. She has a Hold Ground Plus, meaning if she would be defeated, she survives with 1 HP and cannot be defeated until her next turn. The big exception for that, of course, is Execute skills. She is also immovable, so cannot be sent to the reinforcements from the battlefield, which is very, very helpful considering she wants to use that Survivor skill. She doesn't just have the lifesteal healing, she also heals whenever a unit gets the turn while their team has 5 or more spirit. Again, this is both the enemy and the ally team. If there is 5 or more spirit, which is not uncommon at all, she will be healed for 30% of her max HP. And then there's also a little bit of a savage part to her skill set. Whenever she defeats a non-conjured unit on the battlefield with an attack, all allies will be healed for 100% of their max HP, and all allies will have burn status effects, including Mega Healing Burn removed. Now they really didn't have to put Mega Healing Burn in there. What that tells you is that they didn't want to make this unit compatible with the latest strong burn releases, because running her with them and possibly removing their Mega Healing Burn can be a bit too big of a liability in my eyes. Other than that, removing burn from your non-burn team is nice of course, but the main feature here is of course the maximum healing on all allies, which can be especially nice for the max HP Guardians that were just released. Now, given all that, what can we think about this new Zoro unit? Yet another light unit that is pretty universal, meaning I think she can be put into any team except burn this time. A little bit reminiscent of Kojiro. Kojiro, the unit that is also very, very universal, but for everything except sleep. Here we have everything except burn again, as we are pretty much used to with a lot of units. Now, I already read some opinions dismissing her as pretty mid, but I wouldn't be so fast in my judgment. Yes, she isn't quite at the steamroller potential of somebody like Kojiro, but there is a lot to like in this skill set. She supports your team with the healing on kills, with the gift turns, with the initial spirit production, and if you pair her up with the new Anya, which I very much recommend, or at least Yamato, then her surviving for 200 time units doesn't seem all that likely. And once she has the Survivor's Blade unlocked, she doesn't really need to worry much about any enemy disabling wall Anyas anymore, because she just ignores the Guardians. She's also quite big against burn teams in my eyes, doesn't have the same weakness against the team type as Earth Dark Gavine. But yeah, as I said, she's not quite the steamroller like Kojiro, but I think she can handle enemy new Anyas much better than her. Zoro always wants to have some units be hit by other units just so she can get the next turn. You will also need to supply her with spirit, unlike Kojiro, who can give herself the spirit for the Sakura Storm with each clean strike basically. What would be nice is if the Engard skill actually gave her the armor a little bit longer than until her next turn, though it can also be helpful if she gets stunned a lot in between. But yeah, keep in mind that Engard always enrages her as well and weakens enemies. The enrage basically meaning that her Survivor's Blade will deal 900% unmitigated damage. On top of that, maybe some weapon effects as well. All else equal, this skill will definitely kill any non-guard unit. After she unlocks that very powerful Survivor skill though, her hate will be quite high. Whenever she does not have the armor up, she will be rather vulnerable to execute skills. And once she has used up the double phoenixes for 3 times, she has to fully rely on her healing and counters to stay alive. Even non-execute skills will be able to take her out easily at that point. But possibly at that point the damage is already done and she took out many main DPSs on the enemy team with the Survivor's Blade. I wouldn't overestimate her, don't think she will quite take the title from somebody like Kojiro, but in the current meta, as I mentioned, I think there is a very good place for her in many top arena platoons. In the new Anya era, she has a better spot, I think, starting out than Kojiro. Of course, this isn't true for any burn platoons. There, Kojiro still reigns supreme as the kind of universal plug-in. In the battles on the screens, you saw some team comps that I think might be interesting for her, but that's it for now for my review. If you enjoyed it, please leave a quick like, I very much appreciate it. Good luck if you wanna summon for this Zoro or the Lucky Fountain banner Kojiro. Subscribe to become a true carrot, and as always, thanks for watching.